Well, in just a few months, the Democratic Party has become way more radical on abortion than any party on earth. New York has legalized abortion up until the moment of birth, literally the moment. In Virginia, the governor there, Ralph Northam, defended infanticide, and that was barely a scandal. Democrats were far more upset about his face paint 30 years ago. Is that in step with what America wants? The movie Unplanned, a pro-life movie, did very well at the box office this past weekend, far above expectations, despite having its Twitter account briefly shut down with no explanation. No, of course, you know what the explanation is. And then in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, the state legislature there just banned abortions conducted based on a child's sex, race, or disabilities. That law was immediately challenged by the ACLU, which no longer has anything to do with civil liberties. But we thought it was a fascinating step, and so we're grateful to talk tonight to Matt Bevin. He is the sitting governor of Kentucky. He signed that bill. Governor, thanks a lot for joining us tonight.
Great to be here with you, Chuck.
So a bill that bans abortion on the basis of sex, disabilities, or race, you wouldn't think you would need a bill like that because you wouldn't think someone would do something that horrifying.
And yet, sadly, they do. And this is a non-eugenics bill, essentially saying you cannot kill a child based on its race, its gender, or a perceived disability. Ironically, aligning very specifically with a lot of federal statutes, in whether it's the ADA or other things that literally prevent, and are defended by the ACLU in people who are outside the womb. But they felt that was too much to expect of a child who has not yet been delivered. And it is reprehensible. The Guild, to your point
so
earlier,
they're against defending a child, a fetus as they call it, on the basis of race? Really?
Yeah, I mean,
it's okay to have a race-selective abortion?
You can kill a child, and by their estimation, they think it's a step too far to say that you should not kill a child based on its race or its gender or some perceived disability. It is, to your point, this Guild has come off the lily of it being rare and safe and legal. They don't care about that anymore. It never was intended to be rare. It is now literally when and how ever somebody would want to see this happen. And so it's reprehensible to me that you have the ACLU just not even trying to serve its past defense of civic liberties and literally attacking a bill that is on its face something that we should applaud.
Now, sex-selective abortions are very widespread across the world. It's one of the reasons India and China have so many more boys than girls, rather. And it targets girls. Is there any support for sex-selective abortion in this country? Have you seen the polling? Is there like 40% of the population just has to have their sex-selective abortion?
Sadly, it is done.
Yes.
To what degree it is supported by the general populace, I think people would be offended at this, and for good reason. And I applaud. We have legislators in Kentucky who are leading the charge on this boldly. We have young young Senator Matt Caslin, who sponsored a bill related to the heartbeat at 6 weeks or whenever a heartbeat is first detected, that an abortion beyond that could not be performed in Kentucky. That also was immediately challenged. Melinda Prunty was the one who sponsored this bill that you're talking about, this non-eugenics bill.
Did you get any Democrats to support it?
There were. In Kentucky, I'll tell you this, in America, increasingly, the more we know about medicine, the more we know about science, the more we know about what really is happening inside of the womb, it is evident that that is a human being. That child is not going to be born and come out as a chicken or something. I mean, this is a human being. Nobody is under the impression it's anything other than that. And the more we look with technology, the more we know this to be true.
So Planned Parenthood, as a matter of policy, supports sex-selective abortion. Is it a little weird to get lectures about morality from people who align with Planned Parenthood?
Here's the thing. Think about the history of Planned Parenthood. Margaret Sanger, who was the founder of Planned Parenthood, was one of the greatest apologists 100 years ago for eugenics, which believed that removing unfavorable people that were unpleasant, people that would water down the gene pool of humanity, people who were immigrants, people who were of color, people who were poor, people that were disabled. She felt that these were undesirable character traits and that they needed to be removed from the human gene pool. She was the founder of Planned Parenthood. So the idea that 100 years later they still give awards in her name and that they are still practicing the very same thing should not be shocking.
They are. And that's why they put the Planned Parenthood clinics in the inner city. They still feel that way.
Targeting.
Governor Bevin, we're grateful to have you tonight. Thank you for that.
I've never said that I thought that he was a bad person. I think that for me, this and other positions that he's taken are problematic, and that he does not acknowledge that the way in which he treats, or at least the way in which he's interacted with many women, because that was the reason why I decided to say something.
So that was Lucy Flores, the former Nevada candidate for lieutenant governor, at the center of a controversy involving former Vice President Joe Biden. She's defending her decision to come forward with accusations that Biden inappropriately kissed her during a campaign event 5 years ago. Let's bring in former DNC interim chairwoman Donna Brazile. She's a Fox News contributor and can give us some insight on this. So the Biden team, in some ways, is a little bit hamstrung because they are slow to respond. They don't even have a campaign up and running yet.
That is true. And look, he's presumably the front runner in the Democratic race, but he hasn't decided to jump in the race. I want to first of all say to Ms. Flores, as the vice chair of the party at that time, had this been brought to my attention, the attention, I'm sure, of the chair at that time, we would have spoken out. We believe that women deserve to be heard, and we respect the fact that women are speaking out. She said he violated her personal space. He has responded, as you know, Dana. He said that he suffers from, I guess, I'm using the word, suffers from being overtly affectionate. I've known Joe Biden for over 32 years. He has been a champion of women's rights. I've been in meetings with Joe Biden. I've been with Joe Biden one-on-one. I know many of his former staffers, and I could tell you that Joe Biden is a rare type of human being. He cares. He is... I don't know how to explain it because I'm not trying to take away anything from Ms. Flores, who I have an enormous respect for. But Joe Biden is one of those men that is compassionate. He does hold hands. He reaches out. But I've never seen Joe act in any way at all inappropriate.
Let me also ask you about Elizabeth Warren. So in a New York Times piece over the weekend, we found out that her financial director has decided to leave because she has said that she is not going to solicit any big money donations. But this is a quote in that piece that I wanted you to comment on. Adam Gentleson is quoted. He's saying about the Democrats, "We're so traumatized by 2016 that we're afraid to trust our hearts. And that's turning us all into pundits, overthinking and voting for a candidate we like less, but who we think other people will like more is the path to ending up with a candidate no one likes very much." Your thoughts on that?
Well, I agree with a lot of what Adam has said. We're still relitigating some of the issues of 2016. I think it's time for the party to recognize some of the mistakes we made in 2016, and overlooking, as we did, this state that I'm in today, Milwaukee, this city, indeed, that we lost in 2020 to Donald Trump, 10 electoral votes. But I do believe that Elizabeth Warren is on to something. Many of the other candidates have also made the same decision. They're not going to reach into the pockets of big donors. Instead, they're going to try to stir the grassroots to build the kind of grassroots support and political support they need across the country to win.
Do you think they need to do both? Because like Mayor Pete Buttigieg of South Bend, Indiana, he said he's not going to take any money from fossil fuel companies, but at some point are they going to basically cut themselves off from support that they'll need because a campaign, it's expensive.
Very, very expensive. And look, these campaigns and the candidates are being fueled by low-dollar donors right now. But you're right. At some point, we're going to have to pay the bills, and the bills are going to come soon. But for now, these candidates are doing the right thing. They're reaching out to the grassroots. They're building the kind of support they will need in order to win the nomination. Remember, this is about winning the race for nomination, which includes delegates.
Indeed, it does. So we love having you on the show, Donna Brazile, and thanks for coming on all the way from Wisconsin. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you so much.